Some people like to consider WrestleMania 1 to be the dawn of celebrities getting involved in pro wrestling. You've got Cyndi Lauper, Liberace, Billy Martin, but there are stories of stars either in and around the business that go way back further than that. Groucho Marx used to have wrestlers on his show You Bet Your Life. President Jimmy Carter famously invited Mr. Wrestling 2 to his inauguration, but he couldn't attend because he'd have to take off his mask. In fact, Jerry the King Lawler has told the story that he was setting up a karate versus wrestling match with Elvis friggin' Presley at the Mid-South Coliseum before the King of Rock and Roll's untimely demise. Now, some celebrity crossovers are awesome, some seem like a waste of time, and others, yikes. I'm Senior Siete for 7 Wrestling. Let's take a look at 7 WWE celebrity appearances that'll make you cringe. Now, before we get into this, we appreciate your support, so if you enjoy this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and elbow drop that notification bell. Number 1. Mother's Day. After Clubber Lang and Thunder Lips the Ultimate Male were soundly humiliated at the hands of Rocky Balboa, they hatched a plan to become a dominant tag team in the world of professional wrestling. That's not true. Something, Vince McMahon wanted to move wrestling out of smoky VFW halls, something but his livelihood on one big event, la-di-da, the Rockettes, and now we have WrestleMania. And the main event saw Rowdy Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff squaring off against the WWF champion Hulk Hogan and an actor. First name Mr., middle name that little period, last name T. Now, we're very used to celebrities stepping into the ring these days with varying degrees of success, but in 1985, a time when kayfabe was still very much a thing, this was wildly controversial. But Mr. T made it happen. They went everywhere promoting this important event. Here they are doing a training montage in Central Park where they, according to Hulk Hogan, were beating up all the bums. That's nice. Attacking homeless people. Here they are on the set of Hot Properties while Hulk Hogan would legitimately choke out host Richard Belzer. He'd get sued for that, but at least he was beating up people from different tax brackets. And here they are hosting Saturday Night Live where they didn't have enough time to really beat up anybody. When WrestleMania arrived, it truly set the bar for celebrity involvement in wrestling with Liberace, Cyndi Lauper, and Muhammad Ali. And in the main event, Mr. T, he did a serviceable job and didn't destroy the business. The A-Team star would be in and out of wrestling for years, returning for WrestleMania 2 to face Roddy Piper in a boxing match. He'd become a special enforcer referee after that. When Hulk Hogan made the jump to WCW in 1994, his buddy Mr. T was right by his side, with Mr. T even refereeing the career versus career cage match between Hogan and Ric Flair at that year's Halloween Havoc, which, first of all, seems wildly unfair that Hogan's buddy got to referee that match, and second, how many retirement matches has Ric Flair lost? It's gotta be like 5, right? All of this led Mr. T to an induction into the WWE Hall of Fame, which, compared to other celebrities who've achieved that honor, he's like the Babe Ruth of WWE celebrities. And for starters, I love that Mr. T says wrestling instead of wrestling, but you know, we're totally biased here. After a brief prayer, T would say, "Tonight, as you honor me, along with the other Hall of Famers, please allow me a few minutes to honor and pay tribute to my dear mother, whom I love so much. I promise I won't be too long, and I hope I don't bore you." Hey man, no problem. Mothers are awesome. But then it got weird. He thanked her for how her pregnancy with him affected her figure, how it gave her varicose veins, how her urinary tract had to do the work of 2 people. He mentioned his 1984 song, "Treat Your Mother Right." Wait, I'm sorry. Was that a thing? Hold on, let me hop on. Oh, there it is. There it is. He said he didn't just love his mother on Mother's Day and Valentine's Day, but also on St. Patrick's Day, Flag Day, Election Day, Labor Day, Independence Day. You get the picture, right? And at least this woke up the crowd so they could chant "what" in between each one. Meanwhile, the Black Eyed Peas are like, "Whoa, listing days? That's our thing." Now, T did say that he was only going to take a few minutes to talk about his mother, but this went on for about 18 minutes, and by the time he got around to thanking the rest of his family, apparently Vince had seen enough and called for the Hook. And by Hook, we mean Kane. They literally sent Kane out there to let him know that it was time to wrap things up. Yeah, it was awkward, but hey, he and his mom did share a urinary tract. Number 2. Wine Time. The October 6, 2014 episode of Monday Night Raw had some very memorable moments. The Big Show was assigned to sensitivity training for making uncouth comments about Russians. These two retired guys pitched their new show that was going to be on something called the WWE Network. Wonder what happened to them. Dean Ambrose would push a hot dog cart to the ring and spray former world champions Kane and Randy Orton with ketchup and mustard. And Kane and Randy Orton would totally sell it. Maybe it was spicy mustard? We were introduced to Mini Gator. We got to see him wrestle a dude in a bull costume. And, to top it all off, today's show hosts Hoda Kotb and Kathy Lee Gifford were swinging by to do something. We didn't know what, but JBL assured us that they love to party. And hey, there they are, strutting to the ring with noted party animal Adam Rose and his crew of oddly attired well-wishers known as the Rosebuds. If you weren't around at this time, Adam Rose was clearly inspired by the character Aldous Snow from the 2010 comedy Get 'Em to the Greek, although we probably shouldn't talk about that movie anymore. Now, it's kind of tough to make fun of this segment because it was there in support of Susan G. Komen's breast cancer charity, but my God, King, literally, they were being booed the second they started talking, and they tried their best. They wore customized Ric Flair-esque entrance robes. Kathy Lee was trying to get some cheap pops by constantly referencing how awesome Brooklyn is. But this poop show was doomed to failure. It didn't help matters when Kathy Lee tried to plug her wine, because you know how much wrestling fans are known for loving wine. Who can forget the time Steve Austin sprayed Vince McMahon with a hose full of Merlot? We would get to see Hoda's patented crazy dance, which in all honesty wasn't that crazy, but Kathy Lee Gifford would make it a little crazy by smashing a fake wine bottle over her rear end, and then Hoda smashed a bottle over Kathy Lee's rear end. Is this what they do on the Today Show? I don't watch daytime TV. In fact, I'd wager that nobody in the audience has ever watched the Today Show. If there's a Venn diagram between the two, I imagine it doesn't overlap anywhere. Anyhow, the ending to this fiasco saw the duo doing trust falls into the waiting arms of Adam Rose's Rosebuds. All of this makes me think of like a 5-year-old sense of humor. Look at this wacky thing, isn't it funny? Well, it's something. It's not funny. No actual jokes happened. I mean, if you were entertained, more power to you, I guess. And honestly, you can't even hold these two responsible for this train wreck. Their people, the WWE's people, I don't know. Whoever thought this was a good idea, well, they were wrong. Number 3, character assassination. Modern kayfabe is a really interesting thing. The lines are so blurred. For example, The Rock and Triple H will want to tear each other's heads off in the ring, but they can also participate in a skit together on Saturday Night Live. Where the show begins and where the show ends changes from time to time. What really muddles the water, though, is when a fictional character from another TV show or movie pays a visit. Not the actor who plays them, mind you, the actual character. And if you don't mind, we're going to ignore the headline of this video for a little bit and talk about WCW, because the very first instance of this I can remember as a kid was when WCW was trying to get me to buy the 1990 Capital Combat pay-per-view with a promise that RoboCop was going to be there and he was going to wreck house. Sting, RoboCop, fighting side by side. Little Siete was thinking, I'd buy that for $1. Unfortunately, it was more like $15 for pay-per-view at the time. And yeah, Mama and Papa Siete didn't have any kind of limits on what I could watch, so I totally knew who RoboCop was. He showed up for all of a minute, pulled the door off of a cage to free Sting, and that was it. Definitely not worth $15. And in hindsight, kind of weird that the Horsemen were running away from a fictional character, although I guess to some degree they're all fictional characters. Whoa. Anyhow, this would not be the last time WCW would reach into the land of make-believe to bring a character onto their show. Robert Wool would make an appearance on Nitro as Arliss, and what's weird is when they introduced him, they said he was the star of the HBO show Arliss. He was there to hype the stars of WCW appearing on the show that Sunday, and this episode is awesome because they were trying to make a wrestling character sympathetic by showing mercy, and the fans hated it, which just shows that the writers of Arliss probably knew wrestling better than WCW did at the time. We also met Ruber from the animated movie Quest for Camelot. He just came out, handed out t-shirts, and yelled for the audience to be quiet, although A lot of WCW crowds at the time didn't need to be encouraged to be quiet, and probably the most memorable time is when Rick Steiner was confronted by the murderous doll Chucky during an episode of Monday Nitro. Steiner would proceed to challenge the puppet to come to the ring so they could fight, but as you would imagine, that didn't happen. Whole point of this was that Chucky wanted Scott Steiner to appear in his next movie, which was sure to earn him an Oscar, so Rick had better leave Scott alone. Alright, here's the thing. I know this is silly, but honestly, I would pay real money to watch a Chucky vs. Big Papa Pump movie. Years later, Chucky would be seen stalking Rick Steiner's kid, Braun Breaker, in a bit of a funny callback. So yeah, we're not going to pretend that WCW was the only group guilty of this, but sometimes when the WWE does it, it's good, and sometimes... Number 4, the Other Stooges. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm talking about some Other Stooges here. I'm talking about the cast of the 2012 movie, The Three Stooges. And on April 9th, 2012, the trio paid a visit to Monday Night Raw to promote their movie, In Character. It started innocently enough with Santino Marella noticing this box. He'd exclaim, "Fragile, that sounds Italian." Nice. He'd pop open the crate, and out would pop Larry, Curly, and Moe, who would promptly start unleashing their classic shtick. Now, I could see where they might think there was a lot of crossover between the WWE Universe and the Three Stooges, but let's not forget that these guys are doing bits that originated in the 1920s. By the time they made it to the ring, the fans were booing them heartily before they'd even touched a microphone. And here's my thing. Tickets to wrestling shows are not cheap. And the people who paid those prices paid to see wrestling and wrestlers. Now you're making them watch what is essentially a commercial? How do you expect them to act? But they thought they had an ace in the hole. Will Sasso, the actor who played Curly, is a huge wrestling fan. He actually even wrestled Bret Hart on Nitro. He came out in full Hulkamania gear and busted out what was a pretty solid Hulk Hogan impression. But, yeah, that wasn't enough to save this mess. The crowd booed and booed until Kane came out and hit Sasso with a pretty impressive chokeslam. So I would say Mr. T got off pretty easy at the Hall of Fame. Later on the Conan O'Brien show, Sean Hayes, who was Larry in this fiasco, would say that he was embarrassed to be booed on the show and sarcastically said that the show was highbrow, to which CM Punk would respond, "Holy crap, so the douche who's playing Larry in the Stooges movie says he was embarrassed to be on Raw, but he's in the Stooges movie?" Yeah, this whole thing wasn't thought out properly. Honestly, they would have done much better if they would have just sent Three Stooges co-star Kate Upton. Number 5, A Star is Bored. There's a bit of a tit for tat that goes on with entertainment journalism. You get to plug your movie or TV show or book or whatever, and they get something they can sell. And that something could be a variety of things, but more often than not, nowadays it's a viral moment. It's why Sean Evans makes people eat spicy wings. It's why Jimmy Fallon has people play silly games. It's so they can get eyes on their product. So, when the cast of the A-Team reboot was set to host Monday Night Raw on June 7, 2010, it was assumed they would all participate in some kind of chicanery with the WWE superstars. And some of them did. Rampage Jackson, who played B.A. Baracus, talked about his mom for 20 minutes. Just kidding. Started off with Bradley Cooper coming out and plugging the movie. From there, Rampage and Charlton Copley, who played Murdoch, would have some fun trying to help Jerry Lawler find his stolen crown. And yeah, they were in character too, and it was pretty dumb. In their defense, they did have the Bellas try to make fun of the fact that they were really actors, even getting Copley to admit that his movie District 9 was awesome, which it totally was. Eventually, it'd be revealed that Ted DiBiase Jr. had stolen the crown as a way to lure Rampage Jackson into the ring with Roddy Piper? And all of this was a ploy for Piper to get revenge on Mr. T because of WrestleMania 1. So he's getting back at the guy playing the same role as someone he fought 25 years earlier? Yeah, it was weird. It'd get weirder. Murdoch would come out with a golf cart with Mean Gene Okerlund and Dusty Rhodes. Rampage would hit a solid spinebuster on Ted DiBiase Jr., while Dusty would take out IRS with a bionic elbow. I didn't dream this. This actually really happened, but the question I was left with was, what the hell happened to Bradley Cooper? Did he see the script and think, nah, this is just way too dumb? Bradley Cooper, who would play Egg Russian Roulette with Jimmy Fallon, also Charades, Password, Facepall, and he was like, nope, sorry guys, this is idiotic. Although, in his defense, this was also the night of the famous Nexus invasion, so it's possible he got a bad vibe that something was up and decided to just get out of there. Number 6. Survivor's Remorse. Okay, we're going to duck out of the WWE one more time for a second and talk about Jenna Maraska's time in TNA wrestling. Now, right now, 95% of you are saying, who? And 5% of you who know what I'm talking about are getting the pre-cringe jitters. Jenna Maraska was the winner of the 6th season of the hit CBS reality TV show Survivor. And while she did claim the show's $1 million prize, she was probably better known for something that happened during the game. During physical challenges, sometimes the host Jeff Probst will offer the starving contestants food or something in order to entice them to bow out of the game. And on this occasion, the players were standing on platforms for an extended period of time, with the person who lasted the longest winning immunity. Probst would tell the cast that there were going to be temptations to encourage them to step down, and Maraska immediately said she would strip off her clothes for chocolate and peanut butter. And mind you, nudity was in no way necessary. She just kind of offered it up. And reality TV producers, being reality TV producers, they immediately brought out what she'd asked for, and she and her partner in crime, Heidi, immediately took off their clothes and hopped in the water. Yeah, and this was on primetime CBS in the United States. Years later, Maraska would be brought into TNA as the financial backer for the main event Mafia stable, and would eventually enter into a feud with Booker T and his real-life wife, Sharmell. Jenna would get Awesome Kong to train her for the match, which, personally, I would have just hired her to beat up Sharmell. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. This all led to Jenna Maraska squaring off against Sharmell at the Victory Road 2009 pay-per-view, and it is legitimately one of the worst matches of all time. We don't swear by Dave Meltzer's star ratings here, but know that he gave it negative stars. For starters, Maraska would enter the ring in a fashion that, my goodness, now I know how a gynecologist feels. Look at the look on Sharmell's face. That tells a story better than I ever could. Horrible forearms, horrible choking, bad hair pulling, half-assed attempts at running the ropes. Oof. Shane McMahon has got some competition in the worst strikes department. All this led to Awesome Kong hitting Sharmell once and Jenna picking up the lewdest pin ever. Well, maybe the second lewdest. So how did this even happen? Well, on his My World podcast, Jeff Jarrett would say, Dixie Carter was a huge fan of the show Survivor, and that's okay, but her really leaning in, and I think Vince being Russo, that is overconfident in, yeah, we'll create a story that can be able to produce a 3, 4, 5-minute match, and no, you can't. Just, no, Dixie, no, Vince, you can't. Yeah, you can't, but they absolutely did. Although, the idea that two people who are not trained to be pro wrestlers could just go out there and put on a wrestling match does seem very on brand for Vince Russo. Number 7, the art of commentary. The worst King of the Ring of all time is easily the disaster that took place in 1995. Heading into it, we were all hoping to see maybe Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker in the semifinals, and HBK against Razor Ramon in a WrestleMania 10 rematch in the finals. But no, Undertaker was defeated in the first round. Michaels and Kama, the Ultimate Fighting Machine, would go to a draw, and an injured Razor Ramon would be replaced by Savio Vega, leaving us with King Mabel. And if it wasn't for that train wreck, the biggest King of the Ring disaster of all time would have been what happened the year prior, when Vince McMahon, for some unknown reason, handed over the commentary reins to Baltimore sports personality Art Donovan. Now, Donovan did have some national notoriety, as he was an occasional guest on the David Letterman show, but at this time, I had no idea who this dude was. But who cares? As long as he knows this stuff, how bad can it be? Well, he certainly didn't know Jack Perry about pro wrestling, and it could be really, really bad. For starters, he was obsessed with how much each one of the wrestlers weighed, which, when one of those wrestlers is Mabel, I guess could be forgiven. It's interesting. He was shocked that someone Mabel's size was allowed to face off with the much smaller Erwin R. Shyster. Adding to that is the fact that IRS competed in a shirt and a tie, or as Art Donovan would say, he looks like a businessman. He didn't recognize the biggest stars in the company, asking if Shawn Michaels and Lex Luger were in fact wrestlers. Oh, you couldn't have given this poor dude some kind of dossier on the talent, Vince? Jeez. And after a while, Randy Savage and Gorilla Monsoon just stopped answering the dude. Seriously, just get the dude a list of everybody's weights, because that's honestly all he cared about. And you just knew it blew his mind when Yokozuna came out. Well, there's our list. Did we forget any other WWE celebrity appearances that made you cringe? If so, please leave them in the comments section below. Also, if you enjoyed this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hammerlock that notification bell. Until next time, I'm Singer Siete for 7 Wrestling saying bye-bye.